You're listening to the Old Tube Radio Network.
How do you do, ladies and gentlemen?
Greetings to you.
Wherever you are, for music and the latest news from home and from afar, the station for you is
OTR, Old Tube Radio.
the station for you is
OTR.
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network. We hope the station for you is the Old Tube Radio Network, as we will be here tonight in Central California and everywhere else at oldtuberadio.net, listening for, talking about, and checking in those vintage tube radios from 1958 to about 1978 when they started putting those little transistor things inside. But nonetheless, we will enjoy the quality sound and the great camaraderie we have from checking in those tube radios. They'll be stopping by tonight here at the Old Tube Radio Network, 27085 if you're on frequency, and hopefully close to it if you're not. We'll get you checked in. OTR is listening.
135, 135.
45. 25.
All right, we will take our radios in order. We've got Cliff, who will be stepping up to the microphonium. Then we'll head up to North Fork to chat with Paul. And then we'll head back down the hill and a little bit north to check Jerry and the gang over there. So thanks, everybody, for getting your radios fired up. And we will get started here on the Old Tube Radio Network. I have the tube radio list, and we hope to be inserting some great quality manufactured names along with some good audio. Here we go. SWL 135. Hello, Cliff. Over.
Hello. This is SWL 135 on the from Chicago, Illinois. This is the Hallicrafters CB1. That's Charlie Bravo -1. Old tube type radio, one channel and one channel only. It's a one channel transmit, separate crystal for the one channel receive. So definitely no frills on the radio. 11 tubes, oddly enough, including the 6 Echo 5, 6E5 Magic Eye tube, which I'm having lots of fun watching right now.
As are we. I have, thanks to your picture photo archive, inserted a photo of that very radio out of your collection, believe it or not, that is focusing on the Magic Eye right there. So if you're watching the video, or if you go to oldtuberadio.net, you will see the CB1. If you haven't had the pleasure of, you've had the pleasure of hearing it now, so you can take a visual view. It's very interesting. I like Hallicrafters. You've got some great audio. We've been talking before the net about the audio on that radio and what it's doing, but it's doing okay, and we're hearing you just fine. So give us another transmission, over.
Well, that's a good thing. I'm glad, because I know the audio isn't the best on this thing, but it is the original microphone as pictured, and also as pictured in Sam's CB number 1. So I'm not sure the year. Do you know the year? It's 59 or 60. I think it's the oldest CB radio I've got. And of course, it's very creepy for Halloween. We got the creepy Magic Eye and the creepy audio for Halloween time. But if it's not the oldest, like I'm not sure about between this and the Gonsa G11 that I've got, but they're both pretty old, eh?
Yeah, I'm going to say they're about the same time, 1959. It was late September of 1958 when the FCC banged the gavel and said we're changing to a Class D 11-meter citizen band Class D service, because 11 meters, of course, was an amateur band before that. And Hallicrafters, believe it or not, made radios that had the 11-meter band in it, but they weren't Class D. So this is their first foray into Class D. And I have an HT37, which was one of their earlier models about the same time, and it uses the same knobs. It's got that same gray style knob. It doesn't have the Magic Eye tube. A lot of the early 60s radios had the Magic Eye. And almost, it looks like they took their speaker case and Hammerlin decided to stick a CB transmitter, 11-meter transmitter in their receivers, Hallicrafters decided to figure out how to put a transceiver into one of their speaker boxes, it appears. The microphone is interesting. That could be what's giving you the interesting audio. That could be, and maybe maybe it says on it, that could be a crystal microphonium. If it is, that would be giving us the crystal microphone quality that we are hearing. Back to you.
Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. On the front, as you can see in the picture, it says Hallicrafters. Hallicrafters. On the back, it says Shure Brothers. So this mic was made by Shure for Hallicrafters, evidently. And the cabinet is identical to the speaker and speaker box that I have for my blast! It's another early. I think it's a 1962 SX122. It's a something 122. I think it's a Sierra X-Ray 122 receiver. And the speaker for that radio is in an identical box to this one.
Makes sense. About the same time, I think the SX111 was the big receiver that matched the HT37. The 122 was one of the next models up. And this is when Hallicrafters, I'm not sure if they were a subsidiary of Northrop Corporation at that time, but you mentioned the where it was manufactured here in the USA. So this was still the USA version of Hallicrafters before Northrop took over, and a lot of the radios and things were made out of Japan. I have an FM 1000. It is from late 60s, and I have a SX25 Super Defiant from the mid-40s, a great big honkin' shortwave receiver. My first piece of gear, and of course my CB11A walkie-talkies. I got the whole thing started. 1959, like Cliff mentioned, the first Hallicrafters Class D radio, the CB1 Little Phone. It's first because it's in the #1 volume of Sam's on page 59, 11 tubes, which actually was quite a bit. You go to some of their radios, and I think the CB3 only had 7, but they had some rectifier tubes and things in this that they probably didn't need in the other items. So give us another key down. We've got some other radios standing by, but the Magic Eye is perfect for our spooky Halloween edition, the Old Tube Radio Network.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that, too. 11 tubes is an awful lot of tubes for a one-channel radio. Like I said before, this is one channel and one channel only. You want other channels, you got to plug in other crystals. But there's a 5Y3 rectifier in here. I'm not sure about the CB. I have a CB3A, as you know, Hallicrafters, and I don't think it has nearly as many tubes, and yet it has like 12 channels in it or something like that. So it's crazy how their designs changed over time. Anyway, thank you so much for letting me check it in on the spooky pre-Halloween show. I haven't checked this one in for a long time, so it's nice to be able to do so. We will see you next time. See ya.
Okay, and you get the bonus because the Magic Eye, which is a 6E5, they call it the modulation indicator, valve number 10, gives you an extra tube. And I think they got rid of the rectifiers and some of the other items. The Hallicrafter CB1, that's the radio you're listening to, the one you are looking at if you are checking us out at the YouTube video or at old@tuberadio.net. We do this every Saturday, starting at 8 p.m. Pacific time. It's called the Old Tube Radio Network, and our tube radio operators are gracious enough to take time out of their Saturday evenings, whatever they might be doing, sneak into the radio room and key down for us on their classic radios. We will continue. We've got SWL 45, Paul, who is up in the hills here northeast of Fresno, but always does a good job beaconing down with whatever radio he may choose, and we will find out right now. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Dennis. I want to check in, by the way, the Hallicrafter CB1 is a neat radio. Yeah, sounds real good, too. Anyway, I'm going to check in my general radio telephone, SB72.
Okay, one of the ones I'm not that familiar with, of course, I know the Master Control series and the vibration service, but this is an SB72, and I do believe it has some qualities that weren't around in other radios when it came out. So we'll go back to you.
$9.50. It's expensive radio back in 1963 and 1964. Bob Miller wrote a great article in Wordy World magazine about this radio, and he said, boy, they had a lot of trouble with them. And, of course, nobody else ever had it. I'll let you go, Dennis. I'll let you get into this.
All right. Well, I don't want to talk too much because your radio is doing a good job. We were having a little bit of audio cutting out at the beginning of your transmission, but it came in loud and clear. So I don't want to take too much time away from a classic radio here. General Radio Telephone SB72. We have a picture of it up at the video and oldtuberadio.net classic. Now, what makes this interesting is it came out in 1963, and it had sideband. At that time, for 1963, sideband was really happening big time in amateur radio. They were sort of moving away from AM, but here on 11 meters, nobody knew what sideband was, and then this radio comes out. It's really expensive, and in theory, to talk sideband, you have to have another sideband radio with the receiver, and guess what? It would have been this radio right here. So they sort of, I don't know, made themselves an exclusive club by being sideband, and of course, sideband's a little bit more difficult to get tuned in. The receiver's dual conversion on that radio, and wonder how the receive is. You said I was coming in pretty good, but maybe you're just used to listening to my voice. It also has the Great Collins mechanical filter, which should help eliminate lots of static and noise and adjacent channel interference. What else can I tell you? This has 13 tubes, by the way, and the extra tubes, of course, it needed some items for the sideband. Let's go back to you for another transmission on the SB72.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what's going on with it right now. It has times when it wants to work, when it doesn't want to work real good. I'll go clean it up a little bit. Maybe we'll get it going again. But anyway, like you said, this has a mechanical filter, Collins mechanical filter, and it's unbelievable to receive on this radio. It's just great. Anyway, I'm running a Turner JM+2 Hue microphone on the thing. And of course, it didn't come with the original mic, which I wish it had. But I have an idea. I know what kind of mic it is, but I can find one else similar to it. I'm going to try to wire it up to it. Anyway, thanks again, Dennis, and I'll get back to you.
Okay, it has the master control style with the rack handles, but the layout on the front panel is a little bit different than the MC series. And of course, they had to throw in a couple extra knobs to get your upper and lower single sideband to work, and of course, a couple of extra tubes. But a very rare radio and a classic one, nonetheless, from General Radio Telephone in 1963. It's their SB72. You won't hear many of those, and we really appreciate our collectors like Paul, who spend time and, of course, money on grabbing these things for the collection to share them with us. Thanks, Paul. It's radio number 2, and we check that in at 8:56. Let me see if the jingle singers are there. And Jerry, I hope you are still with us. We're taking a little time with the radios here tonight, but I want to give us a top of the hour ID, and then we'll be right back to you.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you. Wherever you are, for music and the latest news from home and from afar, the station for you is
OTR, Old Tube Radio.
The station for you is
OTR.
And Jerry probably had time to run around the block and do the barbecue. Hello, SWL 25.
And hello, Dennis. And by the way, that General Radio Telephone of Paul's was absolutely sounding wonderful. Yeah, but I agree with you. That first key up there was kind of in and out. Might be a mic issue if you're listening, Paul. Anyway, just real quickly, looks like a Holocrafter night. I'd like to check in a Holocrafter CB3A little phone. 7-channel crystal controlled transmit, and of course has the VFO. And this particular one, according to number 8, Everett, it was an extra. That I have the S meter on the front lit up, and it's bouncing up and down and doing it, doing this thing. And talking to you on a non-powered D104 microphone, and so that's about all. Really, all I can say, Dennis. Other than just good to hear from everybody and good to hear from you. Back to you.
Wasn't that 8 channels instead of 7?
Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 little spots in the front, and we'll check with Jerry because they may have had certain different versions to see what's there. He may only have 7 crystals in there. Possibility of 8 channels: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And the radio we're showing, if you're at oldtuberadio.net, or the video, actually does have the optional S meter installed. And right there, where you can see the pointer, there's 2 little rectangular boxes on either side of the channel selector where you could add, like an old car, you could add a radio, heater, white wall tires. But this one, you could buy a separate S meter or not, or you had a tunable VFO or not. So you keep the base price of the radio low, and then later on add these little plug-in modules that went into the front of the radio. Thanks for bringing by the Helicrafters CB3A. We wanted to have a little audio comparison later on down the line. The CB3A from late 62, 1963. So 3 years or 4 years after the CB1. So they have sophisticated things and put it in its own little transceiver box. Nice audio, by the way, for stock audio on that. And yes, indeed, this does have only 7 tubes. So I'd have to do a side-by-side comparison. Obviously, it doesn't have the magic I-tube that takes away 1 tube from the 11 tubes that Cliff had. But there's still some other things that I see they got rid of the rectifier tubes as well. Nice thing about this, it will go 12-volt DC if you have the proper power cable. I imagine you're running it off a house curtain. Give us another transmission because the radio sounds good from Helicrafters.
Okay, Dennis. Well, you know what? You guys might be right. I just rechecked it while you guys are talking, and I only have 7 channels: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and that's it. However, good possibility this radio is so old that maybe a emblem or something may have fallen off, or down inside the radio. So actually, I need to pull it out and count the crystals. So anyway, either way, we're on the right frequency. At least maybe close to 27.085. Close enough to where you can hear us. So that's really all that matters. Thanks, Dennis, for checking it in, and carry on, man. Back to you.
7.
All right, 37, we got you. But, and I hope you get a chance to listen to the archives, Jerry, because the audio is just great. Audio is just great on that radio. Well, if it only goes to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, then it's 7 channels. If you've got an H in the channel selector there, then it's 8 channels, and like you said, something might have fallen off inside. These radios never break, do they? We get radios checking in, they're 50, 60 years old, and they're still sounding great, still working great here in the 21st century. You just can't beat them. Radio number 3, we're talking with Jerry, who is on his Helicrafters CB3A little phone with the extra S meter installed. A good thing. From 1963, the original price at about $159.95. Big dollars in those days, but relatively affordable in the realm of CB radios at the time. Also, there is a schematic for this radio available if you go to oldtuberadio.com and click on the Helicrafters area. Thanks, Jerry, for bringing it by. Sounding good. The Old Tube Radio Network, where real radios glow in the dark, in our 34th year. On the air on Saturdays here in Central California, listening for the classic tube radios. And we have yet another one. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Dennis, and good evening, Jerry. I'll fire my Helicrafters up after I get through with this, and because there's no standby, so you have to wait, and I don't like to run them the same time. Anyway, I want to check in my general radio telephone, Super MC11A, 24-channel version of this here with a handheld stock microphone. Over.
Wow, it's a Helicrafters general radio type of evening so far tonight. Sometimes you just never know what's going to come by. I want to take a moment to say hello to those, some of those listening in, watching in at the video. Of course, Butterbean, who often checks in with us from Northeast Georgia. Thanks again. Hopefully we're checking in some of your favorite radios tonight. Of course, Rich, saying hello to everybody everywhere. And tonight, EDA 396 out of Nashville, Tennessee. Hope you guys out there have some tube radio or radio nights of your own. You are Radio 4, Mr. Chris, and give us another transmission, and I'll put up a picture of the General Radio Telephone Super MC11A.
Oh, yeah, well, this ain't got nothing behind it. Me in front of it with the microphone. No Harvey range boost, no other kind of boost, just my linear lungs.
Okay, and it's doing good. Another stock audio. That's the thing about the early radios before sort of mandated FCC modulator limiters and clippers and things like that to get rid of splatter and bleed over. These radios would allow you to crank up the audio, as it were, and try not to flat top things, I suppose. Check the scope, get your 100% modulation. Easily done, and easily done with a stock microphone like you are using. What can I tell you about the Super MC11A before you go away? 9 tubes, so kind of in between the last 2 radios. And, of course, the great audio thanks to valve number 6, the ECLL 800. Give us another transmission. It's sounding great.
Oh, yeah, Dennis, thank you. And I'm going to fire up my other one here, my helicopter, to get it warmed up, and I will return.
All right. Thanks for bringing by Radio 4 from General Radio Telephone, beautiful downtown Burbank. 9 tubes, 2 transistors, the Super MC11A. Thanks.
Number 7.
And hello, Mr. Ed, in the radio room with, you've got Radio 5 over.
Well, for number 5, keeping with the October Halloween type thing, the winking and blinking eyes doing his thing from the Robin T123. No B.
The first in, well, I don't have the chart here to see what Robin was doing before all that, but when they got into the 123, 123B, 240 series, they had some very, very loud radios, and this is the one that started it off. Radio 5 for us tonight. We will go back to you for some key down audio and maybe what they say, the Word's Eye view, and I know we've got a great picture of a Robin T123 with the magic eye winking and blinking, so we'll put that up as well. Back to you.
Oh, thank you. I got this radio. It had a D104 attached. So there you go. Nice, another little simple radio, but works pretty darn well. Got a nice receive on it also.
It does. It's doing its, what do we call it? Doing the growling. Doing that, and like Cliff had earlier on the Helicopters, where he has sort of the hum and the audio like he's in Frankenstein's laboratory. I think you are on the other side with that radio when it does its little audio growl. I think you've heard it on the archives before. There's the picture. I'm trying to get it centered up if you're watching the video, but in that display spot right there in the center, this uses a different type of magic eye tube where you are looking directly to the side of the tube, and the 2 little audio bars, one from the top and the one from the bottom, come together as the, I guess, the voltage, as the audio increases, unlike the one on the Helicopters where you had the wedge, or we call it the Pac-Man wedge. There were various styles of tubes. This runs the 6RE13, but it does the same thing. It moves and shakes as you talk into the microphone.
Yeah, that made some weird little pops right there when I saw I wasn't talking, but the little blinking and winking was doing his thing. So yeah, the radio's kind of doing his thing. With that, we'll warm up another one and get it on air. Okay, it's a Halloween thing. It's creating its own little Frankenstein internally there. You'll hear it on the archives. I will mention that we do archive this audio at oldtuberadio.net under the archive. You can hit the archive button. It will slowly load the OTR magnetophone, all those little 3-inch reel-to-reel tapes, and you will be able to choose from a date, and whether it's SWL or Tube Radio Check-In, and listen into your audio, and check it out if you wish, or maybe just go back
when we ever started archiving. Obviously, we don't have 34 years of archiving, but maybe 5 years by now, and you can hear some of the radios that have checked in if you are thinking about buying something and would like to hear how it sounds. The Old Tube Radio Network, we are standing by for radio number 6.
Break OTR.
And the break OTR, we may have... This is like the best day fishing. You throw out that line saying we're looking for a radio, and you get a bite on the hook. Hello, Phil.
Well, hello, Dennis. Thought I would check in this Lafayette Comstat 25 Bravo.
Right, the fans of Lafayette. Let me make sure the foot switch is working here. The fans of Lafayette are putting out a cheer right now because they have broken the General Radio Telephone Hallicrafters tie. I guess we did that with the Robin. And give me the model number again, over, and I'll grab a picture.
It's the Comstat 25B Bravo.
Okay, if we're lucky enough, we'll have one of those in our database. The 25B, okay, this is the modern, I call it the modern version of the Lafayette 25 series, because the one before this had that classic old tube radio look, and this one, which Phil is transmitting on, gave us that modern look that so many of you who may have stereo equipment from back in the 70s with the blacked out front panel and the chrome. Sounding good, looking good. Give us another transmission on Radio 6.
Well, very good. I think I've tried this before, but I don't recall. I've got the range boost off, and let's see, I'll turn the range boost off. Oh, the range boost was on. The range boost is off, and the range boost now is on. I can see a definite difference on the needle deflection on the modulator.
Yeah, and we could hear a definite difference. It sounds good either way. I'm pretty close to you. You've got a good 20 dB over S9 signal, so either way sounds good. But I'm going to say to be close to 100% modulation, which it sounds like you are, the range boost in the on mode is a good thing. Now, if you had an amplified microphonium and you wanted to crank it up a bit, then you could let the radio rest, turn off the range boost, and do it that way. So, doing a good job. I see our radio is on channel 11. The thing I might add, this was, I guess, the big style change. Also, this was produced, and in one of the first import radios for Lafayette 2, produced in Japan, and the Panasonic chassis, which always seemed to do quite well in the audio department. Give us another transmission, sounding good.
Well, thank you, Dennis. With that, I'll just mention that I am using an amplified D104 microphone. Thanks, Dennis. Back to OTR.
Okay, and you've probably got it set on the conservative side if you've got the range boost on, but that gives you a little bit of leeway to see what sounds good and when. Thank you for that. The Old Tube Radio Network, real radios glowing in the dark. Jingle Singers over in Studio B behind all the audio equipment here are waving their hands, so let me patch them in, and they will tell us about your favorite place to be on a Saturday night.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you. Wherever you are, your favorite spot on the dial by far is known to you as
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network.
the station for you is
OTR.
And we are looking for radio number 7.
Number 7.
Okay, and I think we have found it. Number 7, I hear Mr. Ed, you will be number 7, and there was somebody else?
37.
And 37, okay, and there was somebody else?
111.
And 111. All right, we'll go in that order. Now, that's interesting. When we first opened up, we went from the highest to the lowest. Now we'll go from the lowest to the highest. So we've got Ed, and then Chris, and then Robert coming up. And I just want to mention that you do not have to have an SWL number or have checked in to this net at any time prior to come by with an old tube radio. This is open. Anytime you find yourself sitting in front of that coiled cord, or maybe not so coiled and frayed microphone of an old tube radio, and we are on the air. We'd like to hear from you. So just a reminder that don't be shy when it comes to checking in radios if you've never been on the net before. Let's get going here, and we've got Radio 7 with Mr. Ed. Hello, Radio.
And hello to all the SWLs out there. This time, the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB.
with super great audio, and I don't think that there is any other kind that you can have with a Mark III, whether it's an SSB or maybe the AM version. You've got what I will call a conservative ping going on, but to those who owns Brownings, there's many ways to make that thing fire up. We'll go back to you for a transmission. Sounds great.
Yes, the conservative ping mode for those who may be wearing earphones, because the long one, I've listened to it with the earphones on, and man, that can get right through the
head. Yes, it can, and I'm wearing headphoniums, and it is pleasant. It's not too screechy, and gives you a chance to sort of orchestrate the ping if you want. I remember back in the day, there was a channel, because my CB days were down in the Southern California area, and there was a channel where everybody that had a Browning sort of hung out on this channel. And if you would spend an hour listening to the conversations, and back in those days, you would be on the air for 5 minutes, you take a 5-minute break, and somebody else would talk, and there was a lot of people chatting and doing what they did. But after eagle to eagle to eagle to eagle for about an hour, it could get... Well, let's put it this way. If you were of faint, weak heart, you could get a headache for sure. But to others, it was a beautiful sound, and it still is. Give us one more transmission before you go. Radio 7 on the Browning Mark III SSB.
Oh, and I will also mention, this one has the D104 limited edition gold-plated Golden Eagle type microphone. And with that, we'll let you get to a couple of those other old tube radios out there.
All right, doing a good job. SWL7 on Radio 7 tonight. The Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. As we stir it up a little bit on the radio list, let's head over to... I'm looking for my notes here because I forgot already. How can I forget? Hello, Christopher.
Hello, Dennis. At JL37, we're going to check in on our Helicrafters model CB38, the Citizen's Little Phone. This one here, it has 8-channel thing down there, A to H, so mine goes all the way to H. And this here, I'm running this here with a handheld original carbon type microphone.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds like a carbon microphonium. Good audio. Which, on the A to H, what letter of the alphabet, for those who are astute at Sesame Street things, what letter of the alphabet is channel 11?
Channel E for 11.
E for 11. I like that. All right. Radio number 8 from Helicrafters, our third Helicrafters of the evening. And you're right, Jerry, if you're listening, I may have to go over and touch the FM 1000 behind all the junk there on the on the shop table, as we've had our third Helicrafters of the evening. This, again, the CB3i, one of their popular radios, the little phone series. It seems like this one pops up a lot on our net. So my guess is they did some good marketing in late 1962 and 63 and sold a lot of these radios. Give us another transmission on Radio 8. It's sounding good. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, Dennis. Well, I'll turn this one off and I'll jump on another one.
Okay, we will be here for another 45 minutes or so, listening for check-ins, SWL's radios and the like, the Old Tube Radio Network here in Central California. Let's head over to, and I refer to him as the AM voice of Reedley, but many know Robert is multi-antennaed and also has the license to go in the amateur radio bands, which he often does for, I want to say, hobby-type communications and emergency preparedness stuff, and doing a lot. So he's a radioactive guy. Hopefully you can hear me down there in Reedley tonight, and you have radio number 9. Hello, 111.
Yes, sir. Dennis, I finally got a new tuber again. I have a T-Berry Model T base station, 40 channel. It's the last chassis that Panasonic made with tubes, and I just love it. And I'd just like to publicly thank Mr. Bill for letting go of it. He let go of a bunch of them, but I wanted one of these in '75, but I bought the Stalker 2 instead. So I have the first solid state 40 channel that T-Berry made, and I have the last tube one that they made.
You've got the Run. These are a great chassis. The Panasonic, the 23 and the 40 channel, I think they were basically the same, but they had to extend the channels out in 1976. This has some really, really great audio. I'm going to give you a signal report, and I want to see how much above my noise level you are. And for those who are listening in on the audio or the video side, I just want to say that Robert is in a city that is south of where I'm at. I don't know, is it 15 miles or 20 miles? And it is flat around here, so he's not up on the hill. So we're just going ground wave. And what's really making the trip is the great audio out of that radio. Because my guess is your signal is probably not that much above the noise level, but the audio from that radio is really making the difference. Back to you.
Yeah, I've experienced that too, talking on it. It's got a punch. The audio has a punch that just goes through the noise. Not giving me big signal reports, but they can hear me, so I'm good with that. I love the radio. There's not a scratch on it. It looks like the day it was new, and I've always wanted one, so now I got it, and I'm happy I got it. Thank you, Mr. Bill.
All right, and yeah, he's done pretty good. Somebody on the digital side also has picked up the Tram radio from that same collection that was out there a couple of weeks ago. There were some great radios, and we're glad they're getting distributed around to get on the air, and I'm sure that's what Bill wants, these radios to be out on the air and checking in wherever they might be. We're talking to Robert, who's in Reedley. He's Radio 9 tonight, the T-Berry Model T, the 40-channel version, as he said, the last final of the Panasonic series, sounding good. Go back to you for another transmission. The noise level is about an S7, and believe it or not, you're an S8, so you are an S unit above the noise and just super crystal clear audio. That is a keeper for sure. Back to you, and thanks.
Well, I guess a few things I forgot is I've got a Silver Eagle, so I put that on there when I got it, and it works really good with it. They're both made about the same time. And also, it's a 6-tube. It's only got 6 tubes. I don't know how they did it, but it works. And I guess if it works, you don't mess with it. So that's mine. Really enjoyed it. Take care, Dennis. Oh, you sound better on this than you do on my Big Black radio. I don't know what that is about, but I guess the receive audio is a little bit better, too. Take care. 111, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I think they started hybriding things by that time, and they were able to get rid of some tubes that, or put in some transistors that did some of the tube functions, but you've still got that great plate modulated tube audio. Just a reminder, if you are tuning in 27085, you are listening to the Old Tube Radio Network. Everywhere else, the same thing, oldtuberadio.net. And hi, on the YouTube video, this is something we do every week, every Saturday, beginning at 8 p.m. Pacific time, Pacific Daylight Time, Pacific Standard Time coming up next week or very soon. And as you're hearing, we have a lot of radio stations, a lot of tube radio collectors out there that like to at least once a week jump in and drive the radio, and we're happy to talk with them and learn a little bit about these radios. And it's also a good way to test things out. If you want to test a microphone or flip a switch to see if it works, we can do that as well. And we do archive the audio so you can listen to it back. We are going to look for Radio 10, and we'll stand by.
37, check, Brian.
45.
25.
All right, another triple play. I like that. We'll keep it moving. We'll keep it moving. We're going to start with Chris, and then we'll head over to Paul, and then we'll head over to Jerry. So radio number 10 is you, Chris. Hello.
Hello again. Anyway, this is WL37 here. We're going to check in on my Pretty Blue radio. This is the G PowerMate, a Gem Marine Products, 23-channel tuber that glows in the dark, and I am running this in here with the amplified D104 Lollipop.
Has a good signal, has some great audio. I'll put up a picture here. You really can't see. We can see the blue surround because it's a head-on shot of the radio, but we will take your word for it that it's the Pretty Blue with some green and red lights or something else going on. Got some great audio. And I'll just ask you the question, where did you pick that radio up?
360, Ray he was living up in Squaw Valley, which is living in Utah now.
Okay, I just wanted for you to say that because he is listening out there tonight, and so maybe he stood up and gave a little cheer because he is hearing the Gem Marine products sounding good as it always does here on Channel 11. Give us another transmission. Thanks for bringing it by.
Okay, well, he should have been jumping up and down too when the Citizen Little Phone did. He left out and he told me to work for these for a while, and then he called me up and says, "Oh, happy birthday" or whatever, and gave that one to me. And there's another one down here with all the winking and blinking lights and all the big knobs and hidden knobs that I'll be checking in next. So, thanks to Mr. Ray 360 Squaw Valley, which is now in Utah. He never calls, but I don't know. He's got my phone number, so I've called him to bug him. But anyway, thank you again, Dennis, and thank you there for sure, Ray. You have a blessed evening. We'll talk to you soon, hopefully. We're out and getting ready to fire up another one.
Okay, well, Ray is waiting for that E-skip. Utah is sort of on the cusp of what we hear when the skip is rolling in, so we just might get surprised here some evening as the band opens up. The Old Tube Radio Network, keeping it moving. Radio 11 belongs to, where's my new list? SWL 45. Hello, Paul. Over.
Yeah, Dennis. Yeah, I'm back with another General Radio telephone. Trying to stay in these dates as I'm checking these things in. This is a little bit later radio than the 72. This is about 1964-65 on this one. General MC7.
General Radio Telephone MC7, the new 24, as they say in their ad, the new 24-channel two-way radio. We'll check to see what the 24th channel was. In a lot of the radios, the 24th channel was 22A, but General Radio Telephone sort of had a thing for the Civil Air Patrol, so I'm thinking that might be the 24th channel. Over.
Yeah, 26620, Civil Air Patrol. Yeah, that's what it is. Anyway, this thing, this wasn't too popular. The 678s were just not that great of a people pleaser or something. I don't know what to say about it. They're nice radios. They changed things around quite a bit, and they required you to use the stock microphone that came with the radio. They changed over to tramp-type modulator, and they messed up everything. Went to electronic switching on the microphone and everything. So anyway, that's not messed up. You could still wire them in there, but it doesn't really need it. It's just stock carbon microphone, and get plenty of action out of the radio. Back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice, loud audio. And I was looking up at my, excuse for an S meter on this radio, and you have some good movement on the modulation in the proper direction as it goes forward. So that radio is probably peaked and tweaked. I like a nice, clean radio. I like the big green channel selector there. There's a couple switches on the front to do things. Nice meter in the front. The speaker, how is the audio? The speaker looks small to me compared to the nice big radio there, but I have a feeling it probably sounds okay.
Yeah, you sound fine. Oh, it's plenty good enough for this. It's front fire, of course. Shooting right at you, so that helps a lot. No, it's a clean radio, like you said. Real clean, real simple operate. Even I can operate the thing. Anyway, back to you, Dennis. Thanks for checking it in.
All right, well, that was sort of the deal with the Class D citizen radio service. It wasn't meant to be for, amateur radio hobby use. It wasn't meant to be for build your own antennas and code keys and dial-in frequencies. It was all crystal controlled, and it was made to be more, citizen friendly, if you will, although it, as we all know, it turned into a hobby really, really quick. The FCC wasn't too happy about that, but what can we say here in 2017? From 1965, you've been listening to the General Radio Telephone MC7. Thank you, Paul. Paul, who has probably the best collection of General Radio telephones. I'll just say on the West Coast, because I can't speak for guys in the Midwest or on the East Coast that may have the same things. But here on the West Coast, Paul does a great job of letting us know what General Radio Telephone did with all of their radios. This one sold brand new for just under $200, and of course, it had that Civil Air Patrol frequency in it as well. Let's head over to Radio 12, and again, Jerry being patient. I hope you got to walk around again and get a little exercise because it's back to you at the microphone. Hello, 25.
37.
Hello, Dennis, 37 popped in there. Go ahead, 37.
You go ahead, Jerry. I'm waiting. You go get that bird in there.
All right, 37 acknowledged. You will be Lucky Radio 13 and over to even luckier Radio 12. Hello, Jerry.
Okay, well, first of all, I got to say, Chris and I must have a pipeline between us because he just absolutely knocks my socks off when he checks in his radios. But anyway, hello, Chris. Hello, Paul. Wonderful to hear everyone checking in. Just real quickly, 25 checking in on the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. On the yes we have, no bananas we have type non-powered microphonium. And boy, that's just to make it short and sweet. Dennis, thank you for your service for 30 plus years, and boy, it's been fun and still enjoy it. And anyway, great hearing everybody. Back to you, Dennis.
Well, you know, none of us would be out here unless we really enjoyed doing it. And the fact that we've been doing it for so long kind of says we enjoy doing this. The Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB, a radio that I have had the pleasure to sit in front of and operate as net control from that location. Very fun. And I don't, that's it, before the days I had ever operated a Browning Golden Eagle, so it was a treat for me to look forward to do that. Audio is great. I can't remember if that's the radio, if it was you or if it was Everett, that it used to be so loud and you were in this room that had bare walls or something, and we would have to tell you to go grab a sheet or a blanket and wrap yourself in it and hold the D104 microphone so that it would not get all the room reverberation. Do you remember that?
Very good, yeah.
Yes, I absolutely do remember that. In fact, you used to say, I would love to hear this radio in the middle of a field, somewhere in the middle of a field. But anyway, we have, I've actually gotten into the radio and kind of turned down the audio. So maybe it's not quite as intrusive as it used to be. But yeah, there's full room. There's full room there. I always crank it back up there the way it was. But anyway, yeah, those were the days. And yes, you did operate this radio. And well, I tell you what, maybe one day we'll have to do that again. You just never know. Anyway, I heard a break, Dennis. So back to you, and let's hear the break. SWL 25. Back to Nat.
All right, thanks, Jerry, for Radio 12, the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. Coming up, Radio 13 from Chris, and Breaker Acknowledged, I believe that is SWL 20, so we'll be right with you, Harvey. Also want to wave a hand to say hello to the mighty Timtron up in the Pacific Northwest, where he says it's raining. And Tim puts out some great videos. In fact, Tim, I enjoyed the 20 meter? I don't know what radio you've got. That's got the it's got the digital S meter there, but the guy coming in from Hawaii sounding just great during I guess contest. It is a contest weekend. When is it never a contest weekend somewhere? Hello, Chris on Radio 13. Over.
And good evening again, Dennis and Sherry. Just look at this way. You're on the north side of the river, and I'm just to the south of the river, so we got a pretty good shot. And I remember when I first got my General, you sure wanted that awful bad. But anyway, I still got it too, the MC-11A. But anyway, this one here, this is a different one here. This one here is my Courier Royale, 23 channel tuber that glows in the dark. This one here is the one with, 7 knobs in the front, 1 knob in the back for audio, and of course you tune and load. But this here is the one with all the hidden knobs and everything, and plus the blinking lights on it too. Yeah, they do blink. I got the modulation light and on-the-air light, and they both blink. Well, modulation light really blinks, but
the on-the-air light, every time I talk, it flickers. It gets brighter and brighter, and even when I'm not talking, it's still blinking. So, it's working. Anyway, this is mine, and I am running this here also with the D104 Lollipop also.
D104, good choice for many of the tube-style radios, amplified or not. Nice thing about the tube radios is they allow the personality of your voice to come through, so it's fun to pick a microphone that gives you the sound you want. A lot of our stations grab some of the vintage style Shure or Electro Voice microphones from the 1950s and add to their radio. Others, like Chris, they're adding the standard, I would say not typical, but standard microphones that came in the day and making the sound that they want. You can do that with the tube radios. The Courier Royale, the top-of-the-line Courier at that time. And if you poll a lot of people, this radio, if you give them their top 5 favorite radios, their favorite vintage radios, this one comes up a lot. I think it's just because it's a nice, clean-looking radio, not too hard to operate, but it gives you just about everything that you would want. And it's not, it's not a Tram or it's not a Browning, but just a little different, but it has its own classic look with that purple and gold. You are Lucky Radio 13 on the Halloween version here, Chris. Give us another transmission on the Courier.
Oh, yeah, Dennis, I do thank you for being out there, and, I've got one more. This here, now the one right here, this here is also from the collection of 360 Ray up there in Utah. I have to remember Utah instead of Squaw Valley, where my kid lives now. But anyway, he's up there and I'm down here and my kids are over there. So anyway, that's how it works, but we still miss you, Ray.
And he is waving a hand. I believe he's still on the frequency tonight. Just a note on that radio, the Courier Royale did have the Collins 6 kilohertz mechanical filter for a great receive and 11 tubes. There is a service manual available for that radio if you go to oldtuberadio.com and go to the Courier section. You should find a service manual for that. Can go 12-volt DC if you have the right cable as well. Let's head over to SWL20. I'm not sure if he has a radio or not, but if you do, Harvey, it will be Radio 14. The Jingle Singers are ready to sing, but I'm going to tell them to hang on. We'd like to see what you are up to. Hello, Harvey.
Alrighty, number 20 here on a International Crystal BTZ 59N. Now, it does say that on the back and on the front, where it usually doesn't list any model numbers. This one's got right below the speaker kind of a big circle and a 59 right in the middle.
Wow. All right. Well, you know about the 59. That was a signal report for phone, 5 and 9, and for CW it would be 599 or 5NN. So maybe that has something to do with it because we don't have a lot of 23 and 27 and 11s on the radio, so why not have a 5.9? I'll see if I can find a picture. That one's going to be a little bit elusive. We don't have a good selection of the International Crystal radios, so we'll work on that. It has some good standard stock audio, and it's got a really good signal. And at some point, since it's the International Crystal manufacturing, will of course check the crystal frequency. Back to you.
Okay, crystal frequency should be rather close. The microphone is a Shure hand mic painted in the International Crystal colors with the International Crystal tag. Let me turn the mic around here. And it's the model CM4U. So it's a crystal mic for you, I guess, or a carbon mic, or a ceramic mic, I don't know. I haven't opened it up. Anyway, this one is basically in pristine shape. It's got a newer, if you can believe it, style channel selector for the transmit and repeat channels. It's crystal transmit and receive, no tunable. And it's the white dial with the little round raised little spots on it and stick on the numbers. And it's got 7 or 8 channels, 11 1. But the knob goes around 12 times, but there's only crystal, the crystal bank is only set up for 9 crystals. And that's factory. So they put a 12-channel selector on a 9-channel radio. Anyway, it's sitting right next to the Crystal International Crystal Executive Model 222. Now on the back of the 222, it doesn't say anything about the model number. This one does have 59N on the back, CTZ, but the 222 doesn't. Anyway, they look kind of the same, but they're a lot different. And I'm going to check that in 2 weeks.
Okay. Doing good. Really loud audio. Nice loud audio. That radio could probably benefit from something like a D104 that gives it a little bit of high-frequency articulation, because it certainly has got some good low frequencies, and it has plenty of loud audio. And I'm coming up with a 0 on getting a proper picture of a 15. I can find a lot of other models, but I don't want to show them unless I can get a 59N. So we might have to rely on you, maybe give us a photograph for that for our archives. Let me take, on your next transmission, I'll go ahead and we'll confirm and the crystal frequency, see how well it's doing here after 60 years.
Well, we're already doing good, because there are 2 air trimmer caps in the radio. One will trim the receive crystal, but it does all of them. And then the other one will trim in the transmit crystals, but all of them. So I just made sure this one was close.
And close it is. My 0 beat puts you at 27.08475. So what's that, about 200 plus cycles low? Not bad.
Well, mine has it at 085.0. Well, I'll have to do some work. 37.
All right. Well, that is my non-technical side, but that's how, if I 0 beat your AM carrier, where I can get the upper and lower sidebands to match. We are talking with Radio 14 at 944. Harvey out there on the west side on his International Crystal Manufacturing CTZ 59N. They made a lot of different CTZ series. And maybe they were like General Radio Telephone, where they would tweak something and add something, and that would be a new model. And they tweak something else and add something, and that would be a new model. Back in the day when you could do that, where it wasn't... I guess it didn't matter if it was cost effective, because maybe you were on the kitchen table redesigning these things and weren't stamping them out thousands at a time, so you could do that. That's the other fun part of these radios. There's so many little different variations and versions of the same model number, like we were looking, where you might have an 8-channel version or a 7-channel version or a version with an S meter or without the S meter, but it's basically the same model. That's part of the fun, too. All right, Harvey, I'll let you take another transmission. We've got Chris standing by, the Jingle Singers as well, and who knows what else on the Old Tube Radio Network. Go ahead.
All righty. One more transmission on this puppy, and I might check in one more familiar radio, and that should about do it. Maybe in 2 weeks I'll set these both up next to each other, take a picture, and try and get it sent to you guys so you can put it up. It'll be of the 222 and the 59, so you can see the subtle difference in the front end of the radio. Okay, let you go. And don't forget to proxy me in probably next week.
Okay, will do. Thanks for stopping by tonight. Let me take a second to say hello to Mike, Mr. Cobra, SWL13, checking in over at oldtuberadio.net. And, of course, the Jingle Singers right here in Studio B.
How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you. Wherever you are, the friendliest station for you by far is known to all as
OTR, the Old Tube Radio Network.
the station for you is
OTR.
And hello, Chris. Over.
And hello, Dennis, once again. Boy, this thing's got some swing in its thing. Anyway, Edition here is my number 5. That's right, number 5 radio for tonight. This is all I got. Don't have no more. But this one here is my Chris 23 plus CB transceiver, 22 channel tube that glows in the dark. And this one here, you know, believe it or not, I am running this here also with the handheld stock original microphone. And I have to, you know, why I gave praise to Ray, how he, you know, dropped those other Ray. This one here is courtesy of Dr. Phil. So, you know, he's got another one like this, too, so he may even check it in. You never know. It'd be nice, but this here is my Chris 23.
Right, your Chris 23 Plus, sounding good in the audio department, looking good on our video. It is radio number 15 tonight. Your radio number 5, which is a good thing. That means you've pretty much worked the room tonight.
Yes, I've worked every single one of my radios, and I got them all in there, so, you know, with no problems this time.
Break OTR.
And breaker acknowledged. No problems whatsoever. I think it's 100% from Hallicrafters to Chris. Looking good, sounding good. What can we tell you about the 23 Plus that we don't already know? One of the 23 channel synthesized AM plate modulated radios with the, I believe it's a Panasonic chassis. Why it sounds so good. 11 tubes, and there is an operator's manual available for the Chris 23 Plus. I keep hitting the microphone here. Sorry about that. At oldtuberadio.com. We've got a breaker, but give us another transmission before you go.
Okie dokie. Well, you know, I just...
Uh-oh. Let's make sure, hang on, Harvey, let's make sure that it was just a minor faux pas. Hello, Chris, over. He may still be transmitting. Or thinking he's transmitting. All right, unless he had a power outage there, we will stand by, and I'm sure he will come back and let us know that things are okay in the Radio Shack. That was our Radio 15, the Chris 23 Plus. And see, that is the kiss of death. I have it on record that the very last words he said was that everything was going good tonight before the radio stopped transmitting. So you just never know. Harvey, are you out there? Over.
Okay, I'm out.
All right. You know you jinxed yourself, right?
Yeah, I spoke to... I must have got light on the trigger here. Looking down, I seen it wiggling there, but I guess it wasn't working up there at the top side. But it's working now.
It's working now, and it sounds as good as it always did. Thanks for Radio 15. Speaking of which, maybe we have Radio 16. Hello to Harvey.
Yes, you do. Number 20 with the Browning Golden Beagle R68T68 by Browning Laboratories with the custom D104 microphone with the Browning Laboratories tag on the back. And that'll do it for me. And I'll let you go. It's not that late, but I got to get in. So I'll turn it back to you, Dennis.
All right, the Browning Golden Eagle R68T68, or can we call that the Eagle Mark I, perhaps, or Mark None, as SWL84 likes to say. The other thing I want to ask is that is always by far your loudest radio. So do you have a special polish or something that makes it so loud?
I don't know. I'm not using the RV Range Boost. It's an unamplified D104, so don't know what it could be. Anyway, this is the Golden Beagle or in the old days, I used to call it the Golden Bagel. The printing on there below the channel selector where it says Eagle, the P ran and the E turned into a B, so it's the Golden Bagel.
The Beagle, the bagel, it's golden nonetheless. I wish you wouldn't have said bagel, because I do have some bagels, and maybe coming up here after the net, which is quite soon, we'll have to have some hot chocolate and a bagel. Sounds good, as it's getting a little bit on the chilly side. Although not bad. We had another, 85-degree day here today in Fresno. So it's not quite autumn yet, but it will be. Thanks for bringing by the radios tonight. I will make a note that we might need to proxy you in next week, but always enjoy the Browning. And I like for people to say what they're doing in the audio department, what they're doing, type of microphone, if they're running an audio board or something, because we do have a lot of people listening in that have these radios, would like to have them, and they hear a sound and say, that sounds great, how do I sound like that? And sometimes it may be just the microphone or having the range boost switch on. So we always appreciate people putting up with me asking, what did you do there? Where's that switch pointing? How come that light is blinking? That helps us out. The Old Tube Radio Network, Real Radio's glowing in the dark. We have a few minutes left. The Jingle Singers are saying that they've got a few more songs to tell us.
You're listening in the latest style.
27.085 megahertz. Channel 11, Old Tube Radio.
In wonderful
Fresno, California.
Break OTR.
And the break OTR, go ahead, please.
65, checking in.
All right, that was 6565?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a little bit of oscillation in the audio, but I do hear you there, Eric, and we will get you checked in on the official big board. Thanks for listening to the Old Tube Radio Network.
Thank you. Didn't mean to disrupt the Jingle Singers, but good to hear from you.
And not a problem. They're used to it.
All right, thanks, man.
There is a radio for sure. Hello, Patrick.
Good evening, Dennis. I wanted to take a real quick minute and see if you had a copy on this Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. I'm not sure if I'm getting out there. I guess you'll have to tell me.
All right. Well, first what I'll tell you at 9:55 here on the Old Tube Radio Network that you have qualified for Radio 17. One of the reasons is because you are on the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. We'll have a shot of that up at oldtuberadio.net. And you wanted to know if your radio was getting out, as we say on the air, and it's getting out quite well here at 27085, and also being heard in New York and Maryland and Utah and Georgia, Florida, Virginia, and everywhere else. Doing a good job tonight, Patrick. Over.
Well, I'm kind of glad it's getting out that far. I mean, I don't do that well. We're only pushing about 3 or 4 watts over here.
Well, sometimes the miracle of the digital network works great, but your analog-style radio with loud audio is doing really good here at Net Control tonight, and we are glad to have it as Radio 17. You are sounding good.
Thank you again. This Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB has a 40-channel transmitter. 23-channel transmitter, and it's got a 40-channel on the receiver side.
Yeah, I think that was standard. They didn't, of course, go to the 40, legally or officially, I should say, didn't go to the 40-channel transmitters until the Mark IV, because the FCC until 1976 didn't say they could do that. These radios came out about 1972 and was the radio, the big seller for them for 4 years up until 1976. Even though in the day you pretty much had to have about $700 to $800 in your pocket to walk home with one. So we're glad that in 2017 you have one on the radio bench.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, this old radio. You look at that receiver, it's got that large on the air light, that brass frame on the air light with that brass golden eagle winging across that big old speaker. It's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun, and this is one of the radios that allows the operator to, I don't know, get involved in the conversation by, and I call it orchestrating the sign-on or the ping, and that's done, well, I don't want to give away the secret. Everybody has their own style of doing it or not doing it, but it's just a little something that you can do with that radio that you really can't do with any of the others. Radio 17 tonight. We're having a good night here on our Halloween spooky version of the Old Tube Radio Network. Thanks for your Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. It is very loud.
Thank you there, Dennis.
42. Well, you want to squeeze one more in before the night ends?
And number 7.
Absolutely. We've got 42 and we've got 7. Let me put 42 on the Radio 8 position at, we'll call it 9:57. And it seems like the birds are flocking and landing. Hello, radio.
Well, long live the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. You've been through the spiel on them, so we'll just make our presence be known. Let us be heard, and again, reiterate, it has a 23-channel transmitter with a 40-channel receiver. They are definitely the item to, like you had mentioned earlier, to have back in the day. My old man had one, and I can see why. And like you said, you kind of become part of the radio to orchestrate what it takes to get the sound out of it. And then it is a nice piece to have in your collection, because they are one of the nicest radios that you could actually own. So number 19, I believe I am, on the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB.
Sounding good for number 18 on the Browning, and we'll see. I haven't done any counting and amounting yet. Brownings are coming in strong here at the end, but that was their, I think, for any of us who were on the air back then, that was really one of those radios that you aspire to, but maybe never had, like myself. Like you said, it was something in the family, but you're just getting your version right now and having a good time with it. It sounds great, and just good stuff. So we're thankful that you brought it by tonight. Radio 18, give us another transmission. We'll be taking 19, I think that's Mr. Ed, after your transmission.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They are definitely nice, and it sounds like they're dominating tonight, but what can you say, you know? They are a nice piece to own. So, Dennis, appreciate it. Nice to get it out here and let it be heard along with the rest of them. Once again, thanks.
And thank you, the Old Tube Radio Network. Hello, Mr. Ed.
And hello to all the SWLs out there. This time, the AEF Johnson Messenger 223.
We'll keep it in the popular radio category, but we'll go from probably the most expensive popular radio that you could buy in 1972 to one of the more affordable popular radios you could buy in, let's see, they made these through 1972, I believe. So this was, the last year of production for these was 1972. Another popular radio, a little bit more affordable, down from the $750 price range into the $200 price range. Over.
Oh, there you go. And the one unit transmitter receiver is smaller than just, the one transmitter or one receiver for the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III. So really simple to operate. Of course, no sideband. Just three little knobs, your squelch, your volume, and your channel selector. Lights over the channel selector and S meter and little speaker. And that's all she wrote.
But whatever she was writing, it was a good book, because it sounds great, as they always do. Nice audio, and I know with that big speaker and a Johnson, E.F. Johnson components, it's got a good receive as well. Audio is nice, and I think I'm showing the right one that doesn't have the modulation meter to match what you've got.
That would be correct, and unfortunately, I did not get a microphone with this when I picked it up. Hey, for $35, what can you expect? But this one has a Silver Eagle D104 hooked up to it, because it had to have a mic to do the electronic switching. No microphone, no receive.
That's it with electronic switching. How many people remember thinking the radio was no good when you picked up something and there was just no receive, and someone said, well, you need to plug in a microphone? And you think, that doesn't make any sense. But electronic switching does that for you. Radio 19, the E.F. Johnson Messenger 223. Thank you, Mr. Ed. It's sounding good as always.
And thank you, and thank you for all that you do. And we'll sit back and take a listen.
All right. Let's listen to the Jingle Singers. I think they are going to tell us about the magic of the old Tube Radio Network, and I'm going to do some counting and amounting to see where we're at tonight.
What are the magic numbers?
27.085 megahertz, channel 11.
Are the magic letters?
OTR.
Right here in
Fresno, California.
Radio Magic.
Old Tube Radio.
For you.
Breaker.
And it's kind of working. The breaker, OTR, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, does Harvey need to get in before me?
Thanks for asking. And it has been a while, and what happened was he checked in the radio that he would probably prefer to check in on this upcoming check-in, if that makes any sense, and ran out of the room. So little did he know we would have one of those kind of evenings.
No, I don't need to get in before him.
Yeah, that would allow such things. But you hear him on the crossband graciously acknowledging that you may check in with Radio 20. Over.
I think we're working. Okay, I see the wiggle meter wiggling. Yes. Yep. And okay. Before the
I need to have to go back out there.
yeah. If I'm able to complete this transmission, SWL 40, checking in on a motorcycle. No, checking in on a Gemtronics GTX 5000 and it's a 40-channel CB transceiver. I think I win the battle of the amount of channels in radio tonight.
Well, let's see. You are not. I want to say you are not the first with the 40 channel, because the T-Berry Model T radio number 9 tonight, which was the maiden voyage for Robert SW111 on his, he had the 40 channel T-Berry Model T. And it's good you should mention that, because this is basically the same radio with a different front face and a case, if you will. But this is the Panasonic 40-channel plate modulated chassis that always sound so good. I'm not sure if you're clip leading the microphone or what you're doing. You obviously know that it's having a few keying problems, but once it keys up, the audio is sounding quite nice as it's picking up all the items of interest happening outside, as maybe the rap concert disbands or whatever's going on over there. Over.
Yes, well, it hasn't disbanded yet, because they haven't called in the SWAT teams yet, but that will happen later. As the crowd gets a little noisier and noisier, and stuff like that. So, oh boy. Oh yeah, and by the way, this radio cost me $4.95, and the microphone actually cost me, I think it was about $15. So, funny thing, these expensive microphones. Back to you.
Put an expensive microphone on a cheap radio and it sounds good. Well, it cost you $4 just to buy a switch. So that was a good find, and it seems to be working. It seems like the problem might be in your $15 microphone trying to keep that thing up. Over.
Yes, you know, this microphone was the top of the crop as far as microphones go. This is the Turner Expander 500 microphone. It's a very nice mic, but very ill designed on the key down. Plastic is not your friend.
Which is why a lot of our operators are doing the D104s or maybe the Electro Voice, the heavy-duty metallic Electro Voice microphones, and not having a problem with it. But it's working. When it's keyed down, and you know when it does, your modulation lights and things work, and it sounds quite nice because it is similar to the Robin T240D, the T-Berry that we heard earlier, the Shakespeare, the Colt, which is that chassis. And let's see, it says remove, let's see, OTR does not recommend this, but it says remove the limiter by clipping D601. Taking limiter out really gives the mic audio more highs and low range. I don't know if you've tried that or done that, or for $4 maybe it doesn't even have that anymore.
Yes, I tried that, and I got shocked really bad, and I now only have 4 fingers.
Okay, well that might be one reason why OTR doesn't recommend working on radios, especially when they're plugged in. I'm looking at counting them out, and looking at the clock. It is 10 after. We have 20 radios. We're doing pretty good. Any other items of interest? And I will put out a call for other radios before we sign out tonight. Let's have the jingle singers spell us into something here.
Let's do some spelling.
OTR. 27.085 megahertz. Channel 11, Old Tube Radio. Old Tube Radio.
And last call for radio and SWL check-ins on the Old Tube Radio Network. It's been a good evening. I guess everyone was staying home today. I was driving around having to do some work stuff this afternoon at 2:30 or 3, and there was just nobody on the road. I don't think there was any functions or parades or anything going on. I thought, where is everybody? But maybe they were all staying at home, enjoying the great weather. We were having I don't know if it's Indian summer, but we're not quite having fall yet. It was just nice and warm. So it's a good day to stay around the house and do something, have a barbecue. And at the end of the day, check in your old tube radio, which many of you did. And we will find out which ones checked in here in a moment.
You're tuned to
OTR. Channel 11.
right here in
Fresno, California.
Stay with us
Old Tube Radio.
and be modern.
As modern as you can be in 2017, the Old Tube Radio Network, 30-plus years hanging out here on Saturday evenings with your great-sounding tube radios.
Ladies and gentlemen, time now for the current OTR totals.
I can tell the jingle singers and Mr. Announcer want to get out of here tonight. I didn't even ask for the fanfare, and there it is. Checking in tonight, we had a total of 56 shortwave listeners, 13 on page 1, 16 on page 2, 14 on page 3, and 13 on page 4. I don't believe we added anyone new. Next week will be the 8th week of our 8-week roster. Just a reminder that everyone did get a check-in last week, since I wasn't around to see who was here, but many of you were. So be thinking about what radio you might want to bring by next week, and we will get it checked in. Let's go through the list. It's going to be a big list here, so I'll try to not take too much time and burn up something here in the process. Radio number 1 on the list tonight, the Hallicrafters CB1 from 1959 in Hallicrafters. Thanks, Cliff, for that nice, interesting audio out of the small supplied, I don't know if it is crystal or dynamic microphone. Doing a good job. Paul on his General Radio Telephone SB72. If there was a rare General Radio Telephone, this would be one of them, mainly because it has sideband. I think it's the only one. I'm not sure if the MC100 prototype had sideband or not. I think it might have, but this one was actually produced in, more importantly, 1963, when nobody knew what the heck to do with sideband, unless you had a couple of SB72s hanging around. Thanks, Paul. Jerry, good to hear SWL25 beaconing in to the Flatlands here tonight. His first radio of the evening, the Hallicrafters CB3A little phone, sounding great. Chris on his General Radio Telephone Super MC11A for Radio 4. Radio 5, Mr. Ed on the Robin T123, giving us yet another magic eye for our Halloween version of the Old Tube Radio Network. The Lafayette Comstat 25B being nice and modern for Radio 6. Thank you, Phil. Radio 7 from SWL7, the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. That was followed by our third Hallicrafters of the evening, another CB3A from Chris. Radio 9 was the T-Berry Model T from Robert in Reedley. Really sounding good. If you get a chance, Robert, listen to it on the archives and know that you are only like 3 dB above the noise level, but that's how great the audio sounds. Radio number 10, Chris on the General Radio Telephone, on the Gem Marine Products G PowerMate. Radio 10, Radio 11, Paul on his General Radio Telephone MC7. Radio 12 was the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB from Jerry. Did I mention that the Brownings tonight were the most heard manufacturer with 5? Followed by the Hallicrafters with 3. Radio number 13, Chris on his Courier Royale, followed by Harvey on the International Crystal Manufacturing CTZ59N, the 5-9 November, or any of you CW guys, 5NN. Have you ever done that one? Thanks, Harvey. Radio 15, Chris 23+, from Chris, the Go Boy. Radio 16, Harvey on the west side, the Browning Golden Eagle R68 T68. Or should I say the Browning Laboratories Golden Beagle, or Golden Bagel, depending on if you're standing on your head and trying to read it. Radio 17, Patrick on the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB. Patrick being worldwide and not even trying. Mr. KW on the Browning Golden Eagle Mark III SSB, followed by Mr. Ed on the E.F. Johnson Messenger 223 for Radio 19 and Radio 20. It's good to have 20 radios. It haven't happened in a while, but as people start not doing outdoor things and it gets darker and colder, we might be in that 20 radio range a little bit more often, and that's a good thing. The Gemtronics GTX 5000. Thanks, everybody, for your radio check-ins. Thanks to SearchLawrence.com and Frodex for keeping our digital side and the Nixie tubes glowing and working, and thanks to all of you, of course, for taking time out of your Saturday evening to jump on the radio microphonium and say hello to the Old Tube Radio Network. 73, everybody. The archives will be up shortly, and we will catch you next week at the Old Tube Radio Network.
Good night as always, Dennis. Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Like always, Dennis, it's always a pleasure. Till we do it again. Thanks.
You know, I didn't mention it in a wave of hand, X4000 checking in from the Magic spaceship on the Digital SWL side. 73, everybody. And good night to the YouTube video.
Whose Gymtronics was that you're showing on there?